Hi everybody, this is the instructional video for how to draw a sphere in value. So first I just wanted to show you some things. I drew a sphere already and I'm going to demonstrate how to do it again here. You can see my setup over there. I have two spherical objects. I've got my light source coming from over on the right and a little bit above them, and I did some shading examples of how you can achieve value in your drawings with different pencils. These are all done with an HB pencil that I've been working with mostly, and I have a little value scale with 4 different values. Actually 5, the light of the paper would be the lightest value. And I just call it shading. That's when you're just kind of going like this. You're not trying to make a specific line, you're just getting the value. This is by Progresso Woodless 6B pencil. And then I did some cross-hatching. That's when you have parallel lines that cross each other, kind of like tic-tac-toe. And by making the lines darker and closer together, you can get a darker value. Lighter and further apart, you can get a lighter value. Hatching is when you just have the parallel lines, and same thing, darker and closer together, you'll get your darker value, and gradually lighter and further apart, you get your lighter value. And then we have stippling also. That's just where you're making dots. And again, it's the same idea. You have dots that are closer together, a little bit darker value. You'll have a darker value, lighter, further apart, you'll get a lighter value. And then I drew some lines, one with the HB, one with the 3B, one with my 6B Woodless, and an ebony pencil. You can see the ebony pencil is probably the darker one. It depends on the pressure that you put on the pencil. So, and then I had a very thick charcoal stick that I used a little bit in this drawing, and I drew a line with that as well. So when you're drawing a sphere and you're lighting it, make sure you have a nice bright light source so you can see all of these things. If you haven't noticed them before, you're going to have, here's the light source coming from about here. You're going to have your highlight, which is the lightest area, and you're going to have what's called the termination line. You can see it kind of crosses the center of the sphere. You'll have one value here, and then the core shadow, which is a little bit darker on the other side of the termination line, and then on the bottom side of the sphere that's opposite from where it's being lit, you have what's called reflected light. And then you have your cast shadow, which is usually the darkest shadow that you're going to have in this drawing. And you can see over here you have an even darker little area. Even within the cast shadow, that's the shadow that's cast by an object, you'll have areas that are darker and areas that are lighter as well. Okay, so I'm going to just work with a smaller sphere and my HB pencil so I can do this, and it doesn't take me half an hour to do it. So I'm trying to work with the technique that's described in one of the textbooks, and he likes you to hold your pencil like this rather than like this, which is what I usually hold it like. This is the tripod. I'm not sure what he calls this other one. So I started out with this drawing my lighter lines. One of the exercises you're going to do in that book is to draw a lot of lines, straight lines, circles, squares, and various things like that, and you're going to try it with these techniques. Now normally you would be doing that with an HB, but I'm going to try it with a 6B this time. So I'm drawing my sphere as lightly as I can. And this technique, this is basically what I did over here, makes it a little bit easier to get a lighter line. See how many lines I'm drawing to get it? And then I went back, when I was drawing this one, I went back with my eraser. And then I'm going to draw, it's like I'm drawing, kind of like what I did with the other drawing, the outline drawing. I'm going to draw my cast shadow, approximately from where, what it looks like from where I'm seeing it, which is different than before. Now if you wanted to, you could actually do sighting and measure the size of the cast shadow and things like that. I think I did that for this one, I'm not going to do it for this. Even in the cast shadow, there's a little bit of a lighter part of that shadow that comes out. Okay, so now I'm going to start in. Usually in a drawing, when you're doing value, you're going to go in Now this part I have to hold it the way I'm used to holding it. I'm going into my darkest areas first, which is going to be that little area right beneath the sphere. I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw my termination line. Now this can, even though I don't want to have lines all over this, but I'll end up blending this later. And get my core shadow. And then I've got the basic idea, and I have my, you can label all this, I know my light source is coming from there. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start doing some shading. Now I may use a combination of both cross-hatching and shading. And then I can blend it and erase things that I'm not happy with later, or just to blend and have a better transition between the different values. Usually you always start with your darker areas first. And go a little bit lighter first, even in your darker areas. I want to have a tone. I'm going to use a different pencil. For the background, I'm going to use my HB. Now I've got the basic composition over here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a little bit of blending. And see how much more you can see the effect of the blending in the 6B pencil with the darker values. See how I'm kind of defining the sphere now? I did those very light lines, but now I'm using my Q-tip and just the tones that I put down there. I can go back in with my eraser to perfect things I'm not happy with. All right, now I'm going to go in. I'm going to get some of the core shadow in. You see I'm using the eraser to go back into areas that were were too dark or the line wasn't right and I wanted to correct it, or I'm just doing it to a highlighted area too. I kind of lost my light area a little bit, so I'm going to go back in and lighten that up. This should be absolutely my lightest area on the sphere over here. The reflected light, you'll be able to see it as the core shadow, and you should see a little bit of light if you look at your object. Hopefully you can get a better sphere than what I got. This was the best that I could find. Just don't use something really shiny. Okay, now I'm going to stand back and see if I'm happy with what I did, and then I'll do a little bit more correcting. That's pretty good, actually. I'm quite happy with that. I could refine it a little bit more, but for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm just going to leave it. The only thing I'm going to change a little bit is I think we need a little bit more reflected light under this shadow over here. So there you have it. You have a sphere in light and shadow using my HB, mostly my HB, my 6B, and I used a 3B pencil in this area over here as well. And make sure you do a tone for your background. You can see everything: termination line, highlight, core shadow, reflected light, and cast shadow. Okay, I'll be doing another video to do the same thing with light and shadow for a cube. And these will be some practice exercises you'll do before you do your next to life in light and shadow. Have fun.